host, Joshua Pentelresco, and Ron Lahr is back for more. But this time, we're not drinking and drawing like we did last time. This time, we are accompanied by a co-host, R.J. Burchette, joins the show. Hey, R.J., how you doing?
Good.
And like I said off the air, whatever Ron told you about me is true. I'm sorry to
Yeah,
say.
I'm sorry to hear that, but
we'll
we'll soldier on.
I mean, we gave you a few minutes. Have you come to terms with it?
We have.
Okay. As long as you come to terms. So, you guys have been are doing a lot of different things right now. So, what's going on? Like, where do you want to begin?
Well, we have a book coming out soon that we are self-publishing. It's called You Get What You Steal. It is a humorous action-adventure science fiction, and we're still working on our elevator pitch for exactly what to say about it that doesn't give away the many twists and turns of the plot.
We have the one word down, the one word elevator pitch. Hilarious.
Yes,
Hilarious.
yes, it is that. That is fair.
And I think our 2-word could be hilarity ensues.
Yeah.
After that, I don't know. Once you get into like 10 words,
it risks giving away too much, right?
Exactly. I mean, even just the identity of all the 3 main characters, I don't want to ruin it. You know, the character has one alien on the front that's like a green donut with 5 legs and 4 eye stalks. That one is kind of given away on the cover. But the other 2, I don't want anybody to know. I want them to experience it in the book.
So this is a book with surprises and hilarity. Okay, so
yes.
Now here's a question: would the plot give away the book?
Yes.
Yeah.
That makes it tricky. See,
it does.
So
our main thing is it's a book. And then after that, it's a humorous science fiction book.
Science fiction
and
is
other than that, you just have to read it.
Oh, okay.
Which seems like a good hook. Hey, we have a book. You should read it. You know, maybe we'll go with that.
We will stand out from the crowd.
So
exactly.
Do you know what you guys should do? I have an idea for a marketing campaign. This is
great.
A really good one. Is because you don't want to give away the book, right? Too much because right. So don't even try. Don't even worry about that. So here's what you do. You have Ron filming him going to bug people to buy the book, never ending, like almost like a raindrop. My book is awesome. Buy it. My book is awesome. Buy it. Now the key to this is whoever's on the other end has to look like they're being slowly tortured and dying a little on the inside each and every time he says it.
Well, you've talked with Ron for a long period, so
yeah, you know what it's like.
We don't need a great actor.
No, but save time because that means Ron would really have to torture them before they got to the filming stage. And there might be I'm not saying you could get sued for this, but it's just like you do have to keep this in mind. You are trying to profit off someone's misery, so you probably want an actor.
Finally,
yes. Yes,
it's been a life goal of ours for some time.
So you're going.
That's why I got married.
Ooh.
First time, second time for good reasons, whatever those are.
Whatever those are, okay. But yeah, but no, I say this all like all with generosity and stuff. It's just you have to realize like you don't want to get rid of this. You don't want to reveal the surprise. So if you don't want to reveal the surprise, then what you have to do is you have to make your marketing at least the same tone as your book. So people have an idea what to expect in terms of the adventure they're stepping into. So Ron driving people crazy with like slowly by just making people buy the book, like a never ending guy that just pokes and doesn't stop, would be a hilarious way to market the book. But it's not the only way you could do it, mind you, right? And if Joe is listening to this right now, there's a little part of him dying inside, just a little bit, because he's like, oh no, because I mean, just think about going now, right? What you could literally do for an hour to market your book. You just randomly go to the various, hey, buy my book as a joke, and just constantly and just slowly watch them just slowly get ruined. Hi, Buster.
Well, I did. When I first wrote the blurb for Children of Cathaldi, the fantasy book that has definitely a sarcastic tone to it and a lot of humor. I wrote a pretty straight blurb, and one of my friends, who's a pretty successful writer, he was like, "Dude, this doesn't capture the feel of your book at all. You know, you need to redo it." And now I like it a lot, and my audiobook guys kind of helped me as well with it. But it definitely now has that flavor. So I definitely see the wisdom in that. We want to all our communications about it should be in the same tone.
Yeah,
And
have the right feeling,
exactly.
even if it's not
Revealing at all.
revealing. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to like. So first off, to answer Buster's question, I am doing wonderful. I am with two very amazing gentlemen, even though they will
It's
deny
true.
this emphatically.
I won't.
I
No.
won't. No, he'll totally just roll. He'll roll with it. Ron may or may not.
Well,
We
since
don't
there's
wanna
two of us,
contradict the
normally
host.
we talk about how great the other one is. It's real subtle.
It's
You know,
subtle.
like
Yeah.
Robin, super smart, hilarious,
It's true.
almost handsome. I mean, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah. So I mean,
The
there's
total package.
right? So I mean, I don't have to build you guys up now. It's just now I have to be the adult, make sure the heads just don't get so big they take over the screen.
That's what our wives do.
Yeah,
And
okay.
I did my hair just like Josh. I was gonna cut it for you and kind of, do that thing you do, but then I overslept. So you get what you get.
Yeah, it's okay. I want to get a haircut in about a couple weeks when I go back to Calgary. So I'm
For
in
the
the
ladies.
mountains. Right. I'm in the mountains. I'm going to enjoy having the long hair for another week or two. It's winter still here. Long hair is a good shield for the winter.
Aha! My wife was born in Calgary, so
Ah,
Ron didn't tell me we're speaking with. Well, are you technically an alien? Are you a U.S. citizen living in
I'm
Canada?
both. I'm Canadian and
You're
American. I was
both. So
born
you're
in
an
Canada.
alien no matter where you are.
Exactly. I'm
Interesting.
the one.
Half alien.
Well, I was born in Canada. And look who's also back for more. Hey, Maddie, how you doing?
Hello.
Hey.
Missed you in the half an hour since I talked to you last.
but the thing about it is, it was so my dad's from Detroit, so I follow under the American born abroad clause. So I get my American citizenship that way. I have so I have both a SIN number and a social security number, so I can work for both countries. No worries. No worries, Maddie. It's comments help. So that's all. I mean, it's Twitch. So the more people that speak, the better. But the thing about it is, yeah. So I'm kind of from both. I'm in Canmore right now. So if you know where that, if you know Calgary, then you know Canmore. So Canmore is very nice. Right, and
Cold.
so's Calgary. Right, so they're both, and actually depending on when you're at, it can be cold both ways. So right, sometimes it's colder in Calgary than it is in Canmore, and vice versa. So right now we're warmer than Calgary. So like we're actually in the positives. I went outside like this, but also it could be just because I'm Canadian and used to the bitter cold. Who knows?
Makes it seem warm here.
Yeah. It's only been below freezing for 10 days or so.
Yeah.
So, but it's going to warm up tomorrow. All our ice is going to melt.
Yeah, although this morning it snowed giant flakes out here at least.
Yep, so. and I'm kind of like, like that's nice. So we had like we started the week we were at -20, -30. So we're back up. We're going to be at +5. That's the other weird thing about living out here. It's just like, what's the weather like? If you're the weatherman out here, you have the shittiest job in the world. What's the weather like tomorrow? I don't fucking know.
Well, normally I don't care. I love having all 4 seasons. I mean, I like that. I like winter. It provides a little break from gardening, which is nice. But unfortunately, by the time it actually ends, I've been really ready for it to end. And so I really want the ground to thaw and not be covered in snow so I can do all this stuff I want to do for the garden. And so I'm a little antsy.
No,
about that.
I got you. So whereas with me, I can have all 4 seasons in a week, and I'm not joking. Right, all
Wow.
4 of them in the same week. In fact, sometimes even in the same day. If things are really crazy, it can be. You can go from, hey,
Yeah, no doubt.
yeah, my all-time favorite day in Calgary, and he'll and RJ will know this. It was sunny, cloudy, rainy, sunny and rainy, which was the first time I've ever experienced that. It was raining with no clouds in the sky, which is like, how the hell does that work? Right? Then it
There's a,
hailed.
and then it hailed.
Then it hailed. Then went back to sun. Then went back to cloud. Then it went back to sun. And that was 2 hours. Literally 2 hours. It was like,
Wow.
yeah, nothing like that anywhere else
All
I've
I
ever
can
lived.
say is, God bless America.
There's an old-timey saying for when it's sunny and raining, which is God's beating his wife behind the stove.
Yes.
I don't know who came up with that exactly, but
I'm presuming a wife beater.
probably, yeah. If
Yeah.
it's old-timey, then yeah,
Odds
it'd
are.
be or a beaten wife. But it sounds a little cheeky, so
Well,
I don't know.
some wife beaters are hilarious.
It could be the other way. God's wife could just be beating up God.
It could be.
Yeah,
Ugh,
it could be.
women.
Well, I actually truly think that by and large, women are tougher than men. By and large, so
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
even close. It's not even close. It's just like just pretty much. You forgot to take out the trash.
No,
He felt,
I mean, if you've witnessed a woman give birth, you're like, women are so much tougher than men. I mean, I got my tooth pulled out and I was like incapacitated for 2 days. I mean, there's just no contest. So
At least you didn't
yeah.
have to feed it and change it.
no,
So
that would
if
have
you're
been a
gonna have
very scary tooth.
Yeah,
Uh,
very scary too. Actually, at that point,
what is going on in there?
you'd have to pull it out and then kill the tooth. There's a story there. I'm sure there's a
Yeah.
story deep down there. Because I don't want to, like, seriously, if it wants food and it's still alive after being pulled out, I don't want to find out what happens next. I just don't. Let's just end the experiment now before it goes completely, mad.
I feel like I would be the alien at that point.
Yeah, exactly. And that would be, well, I'm sure someone out there thinks you're an alien, but not me.
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe RJ. Do you think Ron's an alien?
I haven't wanted to say like to his face, but yeah, he could be a visitor from another planet. He mentioned once how he helped the Egyptians build the pyramids, so yeah, I'm thinking
I was
he's
drunk.
he's been here
I
for
thought, yeah. So it was Ron's own version of drunken history.
yeah,
Yeah.
probably so. But I could see it. He's
Well,
he's pretty
listen,
strong.
you two have been friends for a long time, so it's just one of those. It's just one of those things where you guys have seen the best and worst of each other. So
Ugh, that's true.
yeah, well, good friendship, good friendships. You see everything eventually.
Not everything, I hope.
Nope. Later, everything.
Yeah. Amoebic
Josh
dysentery.
said,
I'm out.
Robin did used to have a really cool car.
It's true. It's true.
He got over it, but he did have one.
I now own a Prius and 3 minivans.
Yeah.
That's a lot of cars.
Well, I have more
So-
cars, but his are much more middle-aged than mine.
Yeah.
Although I have 2 Subaru Outbacks, so I'm kind of a lesbian.
Okay. I got that vibe from you a long time ago, Ron.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah, what are you gonna do? What you gonna do?
I think we've had 5 Subarus, so far.
Yeah, I'm looking at getting like my first van. It's gonna be like one of those Mystery Machine style things.
Minivan living. It is the way to go. My teenage sons all complained about the idea of being given the old van as their first car. They wanted something cool. And then they figured out they could take a bunch of kids camping or off to Seattle or anywhere or haul things or dogs or so
No,
they're a little more
that
appreciative of the minivan now.
well, yeah.
Tiny house life.
Once you realize that you don't really need much else, I mean, you just occasionally find a place to take a dip in the shower somewhere,
Yep.
right? You're good, right? You're just good. You're just like, hey, can I go do some? Yes, you can, right? And right, I contemplated this like with my show because I do this. I could go meet people in person and film us making the mask ourselves live. Then
Right.
because it would be a cooler experience. But maybe if I was more interested in YouTube, I'd be doing that. I'm kind of debating what's next for me because I've hit an interesting point where I can get work regularly as a freelancer now, which is cool, and it's almost at like living wage, which is also very cool. And so it's like I can pay the rent by myself now. So where do I want to go if I want to go, right? And that's that's a question I'm going to be wrestling with for about another month. It's like, okay, what do I want to do next, right? And also see how uncrazy as the world is still going to be crazy for the rest of this year, regardless. We're entering post-pandemic, like that's where we're going next. But the world's still going to be nuts probably for the rest of this year. So,
Well,
Different kinds of nuts. There's nuts coming that we haven't even imagined yet. I'm sure of it.
sure.
yeah, it's not looking awesome today.
I'm thinking comet. Just a comet's just like heading straight for us, and NASA's hiding it. And
Well, I've
Sorry.
invested in a lot of machetes, so I'm really got my fingers crossed for a zombie apocalypse because I
oh,
feel most prepared for that.
okay. You don't think machine gun
Well, well, if
for when
noise
they get
attracts
past
them,
the machine
well,
gun?
if noise attracts them, then machine gun is counterproductive.
Sure.
Machetes, as long as I don't scream like a girl when I'm attacking them,
Okay.
it would be quieter.
Okay, so that's an even bet. I bet you $5 Ron would scream like a girl at his first view.
It might happen. I
Yeah,
don't know. I mean, I hate to say this, but I've never killed anybody. I feel like that reveals too much, but of my personal life. But I imagine it's unpleasant, even if they're zombified. So I might scream like any number of things. I might scream. I don't know. The only thing I've killed with the machete so far have been corn stalks. So, but I
those things
really did a great job
those
every
things are
year.
evil motherfuckers. Corn sucks.
Well, we grow a lot of corn, so
Yeah.
everybody here, my family, everybody loves corn, and so we grew. God, I don't know. I mean, 70 some stalks for just the four of us. So we were inundated with corn.
Yeah, when it comes on, you have too much.
Thanks for stopping by, Maddie.
Yeah,
It was
bye,
great.
Maddie.
Yes.
Right. Bye, Maddie.
See you later.
Yeah. No, it's just one of those situations where like at this point, as far as apocalypses go, at this point it's just like if you're going to be an apocalypse, can you just hurry the fuck up? I got better things to do. Just make your decision. Apocalypse or don't. Get off or shit or get off the pot. I don't care. And this may sound like really, really cynical. It's just life's going to go on regardless of what we think, what we worry about, what we do. The real important thing is, right, what are you going to do in this time and how are you going to stand with whatever comes your way? It's always been the way it is. It's always the way it will be.
Well, I
So
need a couple of years before it happens so I can get energy independent. Wind and solar. I'd still like to be able to keep those freezers full of food that I've grown and
no, I
Yeah.
get you. But you can build your own generators now, though, if you really wanted to.
Well, build your own. That would be what, like a Heath kit?
Yeah, some.
Build
Well,
your
just do
own
some. Or you
generator
can
to
get,
power your
I
house.
mean, I don't want a gasoline powered generator. I want renewable stuff that I mean, and the real impetus for it is we have 3 freezers full of food. If the power goes out and it's not winter,
Yeah.
I don't want to lose all that
No,
effort. So
I got you.
I want
I got
solar
you.
and wind, with a Tesla home battery wall thing. But
Microphone. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yep.
we can hear you again.
I want to make sure that the microphone's doing its thing.
it is.
Excellent. I just want to make sure of that because it's just one of those like, oh wait, it fell. No, I've always done some of those like those old school anarchist stuff, that old school like just how to build these things on your own, just because,
Right.
and not the bombs, because the bombs are boring as fuck.
Yeah.
Right.
I think you could build a crystal radio kit. A generator, that would be a little harder.
It'd be
Well,
harder.
You
First,
can build
smelt your own
windmills.
copper.
You can build windmills. They're just ridiculously inefficient compared to, the stuff mass produced.
Windmills.
And
Well, depending on where you are, water wheels too. I mean, yeah, there's all kinds of
I'm not
different.
there.
Yeah.
And there are people making solar stuff, but it's so inefficient compared to what you can, purchase. And if you're actually trying to, power independently, we'll have a main house, a guest house, a shop, and then a fryer shack,
A
and
greenhouse that will need
a
some
greenhouse
passive heat.
that I want to keep 24 or 12 months a year, 24 months out of the year.
He's ambitious.
There's a time travel
Yeah, he's got a
aspect
time
involved in
turner
it,
from
so
Harry
it
Potter.
requires a lot of energy.
Yeah.
Time
but-
travel garden. There you go.
Oh,
You close the door, and you open it again in 30 seconds, and a month has passed, and your tomatoes are ready.
God, that'd be great.
Or there's been a catastrophe. Like,
Yeah.
the drip system was off.
But even if there was, all you have to do is close the door, open it back up, and you'll be all right.
Yeah. Give it a century, let it all rot, come back.
But the biggest thing is the fryer shack, so we have a tiny little fryer, and so if you're going to make potato chips or French fries for a group of people, it takes forever because you can only do a little bit in each basket. So I'm like, look, we need a commercial fryer. To my wife, and she's like, well, I don't want that in the house because, of course, it coats everything. If you ever worked at a fast food restaurant,
yeah.
Floor and everything. So she's like, it can't be in the house. You'll have to have it in the shop. And I'm like, I'm not having it in the shop with my cars. I mean, that's ridiculous. It has to have its own building that'll just hold the fryer. And normally, my job in the marriage is to propose ridiculous plans. And Laura's job, my wife's job, is to stop those, to kill those right away. But sometimes one slips through, and somehow one day she wasn't thinking clearly, and she approved this. So now it's like, well, there's no takebacks on this. I'm going to talk to the architect and get this added into the plan.
Until she's away for a week.
So, yeah,
and then she'll.
I might have to build it when she's out of town.
And she'll be like, "It's too late then."
Yeah,
that's hilarious. That is hilarious. Well, it's also just a certain degree of he's gonna keep throwing ideas at me, and if I say yes, it'll relieve some of the pressure. Because now that you've said yes, now you got a problem solved.
Yeah.
Shit. Now what am I going to do with this? She approved this. What the fuck?
She is smart.
Yeah.
And you have to know how to pitch them. If you pitch enough bad ideas first, then she'll get one that's just like barely passable. And you're like, well, he's not trying to build a fryer into an automobile anymore. This is an improvement.
But also at the same token, now he's got to solve this problem. There's also a little bit of, is the idea just bad enough that he's going to have to work at it? Right? Because there's a little because we're giving
all of my ideas are that bad.
But no, but some are worse than others. Right? Some are worse than others. Some of them are like, okay, this isn't feasible. I don't want him going anywhere near this shit. Some of it though, it's like, okay, I'm just thinking like this is just me being devious. Would I give you an idea that you thought that's your idea? So you're into this, you're enthusiastic about this, right? That's just bad enough, right? That's just bad enough that's like, It's bad enough that you got to work at it, but it's good enough that it's actually, if you do it, it's useful, right?
Well, she is devious, so, and I'm not saying that all women are devious, even though I believe
most
that,
of them are.
but I don't want to publicly say that.
I'll openly say
but my wife is
respect
like an evil genius. She could be playing me, that's for sure.
No, I don't think she's playing you. It's just like I say, it's a break. Now she doesn't hear as
Well,
many crazy ideas, and she's letting you kind of solve a problem now.
yeah, I think
useful.
if she's doing it, she's playing me by, strategically outmaneuvering me.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I mean,
yeah.
Our marriage, we are both trying to win the marriage. We've been very upfront about that.
I feel like she's already won. I hope
That's so sweet of you to say. I think so too. She got me. She won, hands down. Kudos to her. Let's stop talking about this so we can just leave it right there.
Yeah, no. Let's leave it right there because, again, if your wife does happen to listen to this, Mrs. Lahr, I'm going to say this with all respect. Please
it's Lahr.
Mrs. Lahr, please don't blame me for this conversation going this way. Just right. No, see, again, I'm a wise man in this sense. I respect women, right? Partly because, again, they are the tougher of the two. So I'm just going to be nice and respectful. That way, if the steamroller comes, they might be nice enough not to hit me.
Mine's a fear-based respect.
Yeah, so is mine. So is mine.
And I get it.
Yep.
So we do have one other project we are working on so far.
True.
We started a band. Oh, wait, no.
Yep.
No. We're doing a game show for the Go Indie Now network. That should premiere at the end of next month, end of March, called Indie Mayhem. We hope you'll be a contestant in the first season.
I'm certain I can be talking to making an ass of myself for an hour or so.
Excellent.
I'm good at that. You should know. You've been on my show a few times.
All the contestants will be indie creators, either writers or musicians, filmmakers. I mean, we have a voiceover guy who does all sorts of things, but he does audiobook narration. And then we have another one. Well, actually, there's two narrators. Although the female narrator also works at an audiobook publishing company, and so anybody involved in the business of indie creating.
Ron, I haven't met the voiceover people. Are they ugly? Because usually people are famous for their voice. They come out and they look like Garrison Keillor or something,
that.
goobers.
I would not say that. One, because I want them to be guests on the show.
You don't think I should lead with that?
Two, it's a bad lead.
They worked on my audiobook, so I think they're beautiful. The gentleman is the narrator. He's the voice of Dirk in the Cathaldi Chronicles, and then the woman is the person who gave me the contract for the audiobook and shepherded it through the process. So, no, I think they're gorgeous people.
Well,
the best, better than most people, I would say.
But at least a 5.5.
Yeah, yes, indeed. But the indie creators get a chance to promote their stuff, but the goal is to have fun, be funny, have an entertaining show that appeals to people, all English-speaking peoples, at least initially, before we start, dubbing it into other languages when it's such a gigantic success.
We could do an all Esperanto version.
I actually did
get Bill Shatner on.
I actually did an audiobook that actually required me to speak Esperanto. I actually was the voiceover for that. That was the Mandarin was easier for me than the Esperanto was.
Wow.
Yeah. No,
that's
no, because so this is a couple things about voiceovers, state people. Talk about some of my favorite guests have been voiceovers. One of them was a male stripper for 20 years, so I'm going to assume he's probably still hard. Just probably. So
yeah, he would probably be more attractive than the average.
Yeah. So and the other voiceover was a it performs in front of audiences in theater, and she is cute, right? So I will say that I think the ugly thing is there's a lot of actual actors doing voiceover stuff now. It's really interesting to see where that's evolving into. But the other end of it, like so my first exposure to Mandarin actually came of all places, the Dynasty Warriors video game. So I learned how to do a lot of enunciation for all the words because I got to listen to the narration and the historical stuff. And it's like, so I had actually a good Mandarin base. That doesn't mean I speak Mandarin well at all. That's not the point, but I can pronounce it and enunciate it quite well. So,
Nice.
assuming
it was done properly for the video game.
Oh yeah, no. The gentleman I did the book for did a marvelous job. It's just what inevitably happened was, so yeah, I spent a month. The Mandarin wasn't a problem at all. The Esperanto though, there's a couple like the J's. The J's would be there's two different sounds on the J's, so you're like, crap, which one is it? So you try both and you go, which one is it? It's like, crap. Right. So I've done it. It's a pain in the ass, but it is.
Sounds like.
But no, I've done I've done audiobooks myself, so I know I know the work that goes into them. Whatever you pay them probably isn't enough, honestly. So but it is what it is.
Especially my narrator, they found just a perfect guy, because the audiobook publisher was like, we'll find 3 people for you to pick from, which was nice because they don't have to let me have any say at all, but it was surreal to hear him performing the same chapter so differently. It's kind of a surreal process anyway, just to write something and have people perform it. But his was so much closer, so similar to what I heard in my mind. It was awesome. I was very lucky that they got me. And I'm I'm obviously a fan of his. He does great stuff. And so it is nice to get people that I know onto the show to have fun with and to promote themselves and all that. That's a cool part of it. I'm also looking forward to meeting, indie musicians and filmmakers, because that is not, unless they're also a writer and they're running in those circles, then I don't know them. And there are, Joe Compton also makes films. There's several of those, and a lot of a few of the writers I know have also released music, so they're indie musicians. But I'm excited to be exposed to more people in those worlds.
Aren't essentially almost all, statistically all musicians indie? Because are there record deals anymore? Is that still a thing?
It
more
is
than like a quarter of a
there's
percent
still
of
labels.
functioning musicians.
So
but the vast majority of people are out doing things on their own or playing live or.
Well, I think that's true in all 3 of those areas, don't you? There's more people making indie films because of the streaming
technology
opportunities. Sure. Even if you're just making stuff and posting it on YouTube, it's still.
So here's the thing. Music was the first industry to truly start decentralizing.
Mm-hmm.
Like it truly was the first. It started way back in the good old days of Napster, to those of us old enough to remember that, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was when streaming music was the sharing. It was, some artists like stealing, but no, it's like that was where the initial streaming of music was. And inevitably speaking, the choke point right now for artists making money with their creations is the platforms in which you distribute your music, not the bands, the labels. But are there labels? Yes, but here's the thing: it's all about specializations now. For example, I'm right now doing a lot more metal bands right now on my podcast because it's a personal interest of mine. I'm confirming a couple different bands for next month before I finish rounding off my March guest list. But once they're confirmed, I'm going to again constantly. I'm looking just to help increase exposure. But that all said, like at this point in the ball game, It's also about what serves you. I look at someone like for example, Adele still has a record deal, still has a record label, sells lots of copies. The labels are doing their stuff with it. But again, records labels themselves are niches now. They're no longer the end all be all. You can develop your own reputation as a musician. In fact, Twitch, where we're at right now, is a big platform for musicians. Honestly, it's a huge one. And right, filmmaking is a lot trickier, but also I think also more profitable than the three. If you look at books, you can make a really good living as an author on your own if you have enough. If you're prolific enough, have enough books out there, and you have a good system of contact with your readership. Those are the three keys as an author if you want to actually make money in this industry. Keep in touch with your readers, write great books, keep writing great books. That's pretty much the magic formula. It's not complicated. Figuring out those platforms can be a bitch, but once you have them in place, people know who you are and where you go, and that's it, right? Like I look at like myself. I have a platform here with this podcast, which people can listen to me on a regular basis. So this is my newsletter. This is my show. You can get a hold of me anytime you want this way. So people do, and my listenership and thus my readership has slowly increased. If you want to support me, you'll buy my books. If you want to, or sponsor this podcast or whatever the case may be, and that's what's happened with me. Authors, it's the same. Filmmakers, it's the same. Musicians, it's the same. I think what the thing about music is, music's very much as an experience. You go to a show to listen to it. You go to a club or a pub or anything like that, and you want people to come and do it. Now, with the pandemic being what it was right. It kind of shut down that aspect of the music business. Now it's coming back, right? I don't think there's going to be another lockdown, at least in the States. I can't speak for Canada, but I think your days of lockdowns are done, and your mandates are slowly evaporating. So when things free up completely, it's going to be business as usual, and then bands are going to be able to go out and perform and meet and interact with people again. But I mean, I think the hard thing for music is, in particular, of the three, is it's the fact is like, how do you get your sound out there besides Spotify? Right? That was the challenge for the last 2 years for music. Now that, bars are opening up again, stages are opening up again, it might get a little easier, especially initially.
Gotcha. I mean, I don't really know much about the indie music industry or scene, but I'm excited to learn more about it, through the process of doing the show and getting to meet people. And I believe as the show goes on, instead of us having to try and find indie musicians, indie filmmakers to be contestants, that if the show works the way we're hoping, they'll be contacting us, asking to participate, and that will be, an awesome.
There is attention hungry as writers are. So.
Oh yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
All indie artists need to reach a new audiences all the time, and hopefully that's what we'll be doing.
Yeah, well, it's a good way of doing it too, because I mean, it sounds like an egomaniac here. There are people like me that have the interview at corner kind of nailed down. So it's coming up with new ways of presenting people and yourselves. That's fun, and I think game shows are a really cool way of doing it.
Well, that's exactly what went through my mind when I was like, hey, I want to do a show. The Go Indie Now network has a ton of shows, and it felt like quite often I was hearing about somebody that I appear on shows with, like on This Week in Indies. There's six people. Joe's the host, but there's 5 guests, and so I've been on a panel with these people, and now they have a show, and I was like, well, I want a show. That would be fun. But like you say, there are a lot of interview shows, and I didn't have any clear vision of what I could bring to an interview show that would make it different or worthwhile compared to everybody else. But so I'm like, well, what else is there to do? There are other people who are snarky.
I can be an asshole. Yeah.
Oh yeah. But a game show, I wasn't aware of one, and there definitely wasn't one on the Going Now network. And I thought it, we have a definite pool of contestants to draw from, and uh, yeah, I mean, I think it will be different, but also fun. I mean, I wanted it to be fun for me to do.
Oh yeah.
And while I interview people for my newsletter every once in a while, I've interviewed my narrator and a couple other people. And that's enjoyable. It's not fun like I think the game show will be fun. Not for me. I don't. I I need content for the newsletter is more the motivation for that than it is fun for me to do. But the game
Right.
show I think will be just a good time, and uh, then I mean because you've done what, like 800 shows or something, more than that now, and
730 as of right
oh,
this minute.
so I mean almost. And if we want to do the game show for an extended period of time, it better be fun to do. Besides, people responding to it. I mean, we need the audience to like it, but also, I mean, we
Oh
have
yeah,
to
no.
enjoy doing it,
It's got
or
it's
it's
got
just
to
not
be a
going
good
to
use
happen.
of a Saturday afternoon to.
Yeah. So
I could be brushing my dog now. It's got to be better than that.
Yes.
ugh,
I
No.
could do a brushing my
I
dog
I totally get it.
channel.
Like I had a friend of mine. She called me about a month ago, and we talked about what to do with her show, increase her audience, stuff like that. And I just got the real sense that she didn't really want to do it anymore, or at least not do it as regularly as she did. Like I love doing interviews. Otherwise, I wouldn't be at this number. I just wouldn't do it.
Right.
Right. So it's worthwhile for me because I get to meet and talk and interact with some cool people. I think that's an amazing thing. But I'm also pragmatic. This is not for everybody. Right.
definitely.
Right. And some people and again, I have an incredible big mouth, and that works to my advantage. Right. So I like this kind of show for me is good. But Ron, like, yeah, like I said, like doing something different from what you've already seen out there. That's a very, um, you have to have a certain love for it to begin with, and you don't, and there's nothing wrong with that, right?
Exactly.
Right. And game shows, like again, it's all about like what's worth your time. Like everybody recognizes you need a platform, but you need your platform, whatever that actually looks like. And chances are, the spaghetti that's going to stick to the wall is pretty similar to the guy throwing it. That's how I look at it. So,
Exactly.
That's an odd
So,
food metaphor.
I mean,
Kind of a cannibalistic sort of. It's gluten free. It's all made with out of the cook.
yes.
when I go on shows like This Week in Indies or your show or anything to promote my books, um, my main goal is really to have fun. And uh, there's a school of thought that marketing is more about letting people get to know you
Mhm.
than pitching the book or whatever product it is. That they're buying you and your story as
And
much
that's
as or
fine.
more than they're buying the product. So I'm just trying to have fun and be me. And you get to mention your book, but it there are certain other people who every answer they give, they bring their book up in it.
Oh, good Lord.
You know what I'm talking about? And I
Oh,
don't do that.
They stay on message.
It is so so impressive in a way. Almost like politicians. No matter what question you
Right.
ask them, they talk about whatever they want to talk about.
Right.
That's
oh,
kind of what it feels like with some people, and I don't want to do that. If that was what it was, I wouldn't do the shows. I mean, I want to have fun, and I've been able to do that, and I've met great people. It's been a real lifesaver during the pandemic, and when I wasn't going out, and when
Seeing humans in person.
yeah, and
Yeah.
being at home with my mom and her Alzheimer's is not as
that's
fun
tough.
as you would
That's tough.
wish.
Yeah.
So it was a real lifeline for me. It kind of saved my mood and my attitude, and so I'm very grateful for these experiences, and I wanted to do something, that I thought would be fun and increase the likelihood that it would keep going. Because like anything, you were talking about this earlier, Josh. I mean, it slowly builds up, and as long as it keeps going, and that it's worth, even if it's incremental growth, as long as there's growth, it's worth doing. But to invest all those hours of time, you got to love it, to invest enough time and commit enough to get to the point where, you're really making an impact. And I just have a couple reviews that are going to go up on Joe's reviews website, the popcorn, review site. And they're of indie books I read where I loved the books, and I wasn't expecting to in either case. So I went into them expecting that I was not going to be impressed, and then I loved them. And so I wrote these reviews because I wanted to help them. I'm like, these books are so great. They should be bestsellers. They're just awesome.
Oh yeah.
And yet one of them in particular, she does not like to market, her book. She doesn't like to promote it. So I'm like, well, I'm going to do this because I think the book is great. And if the show gets to a point where when somebody comes on, it actually gives them a boost,
and they move product,
then that will be very satisfying. I mean, at the same time, I'm hoping it will sell our books. I mean, it's not all altruism, but I really look forward to the time when instead of helping somebody sell a dozen books, I can have more of an impact for good stuff.
Yeah, and we're hoping to cross-pollinate with bringing musicians and video people and voiceover and people who maybe would be in an insular sort of community if they only hang out with other musicians, say, or only hang with other indie filmmakers. If we can just work.
Can I make a tiny suggestion for your guest list to include another group of people?
Sure.
Video game creators. I'm not kidding. You have what, right? I'm not kidding about this, because here's the thing. The most passionate fan bases, reason why I'm on Twitch, the honest reason, the most passionate fan bases I've ever seen are on Twitch. They're video gamers. They're passionate about everything they do. By far, screw musicians, screw movie, like these guys are real, genuine fans. They're great. The passion is super contagious. So if you can get a couple people that do video games and they're not too shy about going out in front, I think you'd find a really good cross pollination for what you guys are trying to do. Because if you make a fun show that people are enthusiastic, and you're playing games, guys, it's game theory. So go find the gamers that go on your show, right? If they're making,
sorry, we could interrupt. We could build a video game into the show.
yeah.
Are there any controls in this platform that we could use that everybody you're sitting there chatting about your latest project, and then there's blocks about to fall on your head, and
yeah, why not? Why not? Just like, oh, you're playing a bonus game. Can you answer these questions before the blocks fall?
Right.
Right. But I mean, it's just like I said, there's a ton of indie creations all over. Like we live in an age today where there's art is everywhere, like literally everywhere. So yeah, right, think about don't just think about the stuff standard, like video games. I think are one of the most understated like platforms. We don't talk about them enough, but they're the biggest sellers. They outsell everything, including movies. Some of those games. So it's like,
the revenue on games, yes, it's even more than ringtones.
Yep. Hey, why not? Hey, why not? Right. So find what you're gonna find. I bring all this up. Now go back to something that Ron's saying here. The other thing was about Ron saying. I tend to subscribe to the people. Like people. I had a Facebook add-on recently. They later it's like, hi, nice to meet you, and then they just plopped their comic at me, and it was like, well, okay, now we're out. Like we're out. Like the thing is, you have to establish a connection with people before they're going to invest in you. That's just the way it is.
Right.
right? People invest in things they know and are familiar with. Like, this is why companies spend thousands to tens of thousands to millions to, like, depending on how big the company is, on advertising. They
It
want to,
works.
because they want to make a
Definitely.
connection with you, so you'll buy their shit. And they realize that if I just gonna come at you to tell you to buy my shit, you're gonna they're gonna get a giant bird as a response with that. So they're gonna say, okay, let's get to know you, because it's the only way you're gonna buy from me. And it's true. That's how salesmen work. Salesmen don't, like, they're trying to sell you stuff, yes, but what they're really trying to do is trying to establish a relationship with you. Because the more of a relationship you have with them, the more likely they're going to buy from you. That's just how it works.
The best salesman I ever knew, I worked as a young person, I worked at a paint store, and there was a salesman, and it was a regional paint company, and this was in Spokane, which is not a very big city. And there were salespeople in Seattle, obviously a big city, and this guy sold the most out of anybody in the company because he was constantly building relationships, but he never did anything. If he went out to dinner there with his wife, a client was there. They went golfing. I mean, everything he did, he had some customer with him. And it was what convinced me I had no interest in sales in general, which was, I don't want to always, everybody I talk to, be thinking how I can get them to buy something.
Right.
That's
or anything really.
Yeah, that's a rough gig. But I did want to say, we are gathering sponsors for the show, and when you start out with zero people watching or subscribing because it's brand new, they're donating prizes for the contestants, because somebody wins every episode. In fact, the structure of it is there's 9 episodes where one person wins, and then those 9 go on to 3 semifinal episodes, 3 against 3 people competing on each of those, and then the winners of those 3 semifinals are in the ultimate show to become the champion of the season. And so we have prizes for all of those, and the loser gets our book.
Yeah.
You get what you steal, to teach them a lesson, to try harder. You need to do better.
There have to be consequences.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. There has to be consequences. That is a very terrible way to market your book, by the way. I'm just saying.
Well, we're old, and so we don't believe in participation trophies. We're more punishment oriented, and but I think to deal with, I mean, that's something new, sponsors, and I'm hoping the participants will also, share some of their stuff, so that the next week they still get a little promotion through, like a musician comes on and has, downloads for their stuff that show up as prizes the next week. So you're continuing to get some exposure even when it's not the actual episode you were on. I mean, I'm hoping that people want to do that, and most of the ones I've talked to are interested in that.
When I started getting sponsors for the show the first few months, I just did giveaways. It's the easiest way to increase, it's not hard for anyone to get involved with. And I had some sponsors, and then it's just me doing a voiceover. Like, it gives me voiceover experience too, because this podcast is sponsored by blah 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 blah, and you just get that down. So I can do voiceovers now all the time. So it's another freelance thing I can offer. But also at the same time, it's just like that's a great way to start. Obviously, your audience is going to determine how good your sponsorships are.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, right.
Definitely.
That's the secret to the that's the downside to this particular kind of business, is you realize that it's your audience, it's your real product. This sounds very cynical saying that, but it's the viewership that sponsors are interested. How many people are actually watching your show, right, or listening to your show, right?
No, I mean, that makes perfect sense. And I don't have any problem with that, but we did want to have prizes. We did want to have sponsors from the beginning, build that into the structure of the show. And frankly, I mean, I think they'll promote it as well, so that gives us
Oh,
something
yeah.
else for promoting the show. And that's one of the nice things about it is because our contestants are indie producers, indie creators, they all have some sort of, social media following, and they're going to promote it too, to some degree. So, that isn't normal when you just have on other game shows, where the contestants are,
Yeah.
just regular schmoes, they
That's
are
right. So
they are
I'm a regular
promoting the
schmo.
show. Being on the show is the thing for them. But, these guys know that for it to take off and have an impact for them, they need to promote it as well.
Yeah, well, that's also a tricky part because authors don't necessarily or creatives don't like the market, right? And
No, but it's pretty easy to get people to share a link. You know what I mean? To do
you
some
would
minimal
think
amount.
that you would
You would
think
you would think
that.
that.
I would. I
Yeah.
mean, I do it all the time.
Well, but see, you're a wise man. See,
I'm not going to argue with that.
yeah, you're not gonna argue that one,
I'm
right?
glad my wife is not here to laugh at that, but I'm not going to argue with that.
Hey, listen, Ron, take the credit when you can, right? It's
Oh,
not around. It's
oh,
yes,
I do.
I'm wise. Yeah, yeah. No, I bring this up because it's a really interesting thing. I've hit a point with this show that me promoting it will guarantee a minimum audience for it, like just a general rule of thumb. Most days I'm averaging are somewhere between 30 and 40 downloads a day. Most days, even with I don't do anything at this point. As long as I just keep putting new content up, that's what happens. Some days it goes like this. Some days it's nothing, but by and large, it's like I've hit a certain steady pace. So, all right, and I get anywhere from 300 to 500 downloads a week, which is that's good. It's not a huge audience, but it's not small either. So now I can go to a sponsor and go, okay, this is who's listening to the show, right? Are you interested? And I'm getting more interest now than I did in the past, right? And
Sure.
the more my audience increases, the more business I'm going to make. So like this year is really about investing in myself because once I hit a certain point, it's going to stay at a certain point, and then I can hit the sponsorship prices I want, and this can pay for my shit. Right? That's how I'm looking. That's how I'm
Right.
looking at it. Right?
The hobby has to at least pay for itself. One
it's
hopes.
done. It's done
Yeah.
that. Or like my podcast has done that long time ago. At this point, if I get any money for it, it's gravy.
That's a tough.
Right?
I mean, my gardening pays for itself.
Yes.
In multiple ways. Just I think the quality of the food, but also, when that thing is pumping food out, we're hardly buying anything. I
Yeah.
mean, we dairy. We have to buy dairy stuff.
You
But
don't have a cow yet.
But not yet. But it's in the plan, the crazy ass master plan I have.
Cows and
But
chickens. Then
but the
you got everything at
cars,
that point.
chickens are coming this spring. Yeah,
Yeah.
soon as it's warm enough, we have I have a friend who has way too many chickens, and I've agreed to take them and his goats, a couple of goats.
Then you don't need a cow. Then you don't need a cow. You got goat.
Well,
You're
I
good.
do for different cheeses I want to make.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So it really is a crazy plan. I'm telling you. But
no, it's not that crazy.
but the
I get it.
cars do not pay for themselves because to me, cars are for buying, not for selling. So I just keep getting more and more cars, and I don't ever sell one to recoup anything. I just want to own them all
Do you
and
drive them, or do they
Oh
mostly
yeah.
sit
No,
and
I
wait
don't believe in
for
cars as
someday?
art. I believe in
Yard art.
in enjoying them for the purpose they were created for. And my father-in-law has, I don't know, 13 cars or so, and some really, I mean, a 57 Chevy Bel Air that's concourse ready,
That's a beautiful car.
a 67, whatever the first year of Camaro was.
They were beautiful then.
Yeah, he has a convertible,
The beautiful
gorgeous Camaro, and then a 50-something Beetle convertible. So he's got some really cool cars. He also has a Datsun 280ZX 79 like mine. We have two of the cars from the first 6 months that model came out. But he doesn't drive them. And he's like, once you have one completely restored, you won't drive it either. And I'm like, that is never the case. I'll paint them every year. I don't give a shit. I want to experience the cars, and he has them as cool pieces of art. And if he takes I mean, the whole time I've known him, he's never driven the '57 Chevy. He's had it trailered places, and that is not how I experience cars.
It's like at a Toy Story, the little guy always in the box.
Exactly.
So
Like
the
these
And
oldest,
things, you got to let them off the leash.
I kept no toys new in box ever.
no. So
um,
the oldest car I ever was in was when I was living in a town called Snowflake, Arizona. I used to work at a gas station. I was very pissed I was working at that gas station because of just the way incidents happened. That's a lot another story. But here's the point: my boss one day drives up. He's got a 1940. I can't remember. I think it was old, like an old school. I have never seen a car so simply put together in my life and so freaking sturdy. Like it was like this is the sweet. Why aren't cars all made like this anymore? Because this is easy,
And easy
right?
to repair, and
Easy to
oh yeah,
repair, easy to repair, easy functional. Like you could teach, like again, we live in the age of automatic versus manual, but still, it's not so complicated that you can't figure out the manual on this either. It's just like it's one or the other gear. That's it. It's just one or the other. Figure it out, right? But sweet car, modern engine. It had a modern engine, but it was but everything else about it was pristinely like reserved. Like though it was solid. Like difference between the steel today and the steel then. Holy shit! Like
oh yeah.
just a different. Oldest car I've ever been in. It was like afterwards, like whoa. I want a car like this. I don't want any of the cars today. I want a car like that.
Well,
How
I told
much?
my kids that they had to learn how to drive a stick, or they weren't getting any of my cars when I died. Like I'm not leaving all my stick shift cars to people who can't drive a stick shift. I'll I'll donate them somewhere if you don't learn. But luckily, my oldest daughter married a young man who is really into cars, and so he has a bunch of stick. He's got a lot of manual transmission cars, and so she learned, as part of sharing his interest. Although I think she wants some of the cars. So
I'm sure that didn't hurt, but
yeah,
I somehow feel like it wasn't enticing enough until the man came into her life. She didn't care
right.
that much.
Working together, he and I
Yeah.
convinced her to learn how to drive a manual. And so as it stands now, she'll get all the cars. We have two automatics that the Outbacks that are like my wife growing up with her father, who was always restoring cars. She hates old cars because he would restore them enough that they would take her somewhere and break down and strand her somewhere. So she's like, I want a new car. And
Oh my
so
god.
she has a new one, and then I have an old junker that's just for winter. I'm not going to drive my sports car, I mean, there are some old cars I want that would be great in the winter. I don't have any of those yet. And I will say, a new car, it's almost guaranteed to start. The with
unless
my
you
older
abuse it
cars, it's like
horribly.
but my view is if I have enough old cars, one will
One of
start on
them will
any
start.
particular day.
Yeah.
But you can't just be like, hey, this is going to start every day. Not, yeah. And especially because most of them are, partially restored. They're not, I want to do some frame up restorations, but I haven't done that. And so there's still shit that needs to be, worked on these vehicles. And that's fun. And I have a lot of free time. So I get to work on the cars all the time. I'm just kidding. I haven't worked on a car in a long time because now I don't even have a place and it's winter. Until I build my shop, I don't even have a spot to do it. But that's a that's a hobby that's just a money sink. Everything else, all my other hobbies, I would love for them to be,
To give you something back.
revenue neutral at least.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, yep. But cars are my money sink.
We all have them. For me, it's ironically just books. Books are my crack of choice. They're not. I mean, there are some that become collector's items, but let's be honest, we're buying books to read them. We're not buying them for like the financial benefit of it. We're buying them for the experience we get reading them.
Although some would argue that the experience of reading should make you a better writer, which would mean they are contributing to that aspect of your, so they are helping you make a better
just
writer.
Generally.
Well, I'm not really interested in that. I can't monetize
that. Yeah, you can.
I mean, good enough.
Are you good enough, Ron?
I'm already married. I'm good enough.
And you got to be careful of the things you buy as investments. There's a Persian rug in the hallway outside my room here that's my wife told me we were buying as an investment, and then we let the dogs and the children and guests just walk on it, and I don't think it's improved in its resale value over the last 20 years. So we hit a rough patch financially a few years ago, and I suggested selling our investment, and she didn't take kindly to that suggestion. So we still own it. We did not sell it to pay off the mortgage.
I kind of feel like it's not really an investment anymore for you, Robin. I think more it's yours forever.
I feel like it was never an investment for you.
Yeah.
More for Shauna. But yeah, I mean, there are a few things I buy as an investment. I mean, I really am more worried about enjoying them right now. Like, you'll see articles, don't do these projects to your house because you'll never get your money back. Well, I don't give a shit. I'm not doing it because I plan on selling my house. I'm doing it because I want to enjoy where I live, but
I had a buddy, his parents had always were working on modifying the house. So I go to his house and so it's hilarious because he was one of my best friends growing up. When I was a kid, his mom did not like me, but as an adult, we're actually decent friends. We're decent friends because he's just like, yeah, I wasn't like my children I loved. I wasn't good with other children. So, and she was honest about it, right? Like, it's like my children are different, but everybody else is just like, they're kids. When I became an adult, and also when I showed her my first book, I think I got into a lot of respect because I just went and I've done things with my life, right? Even though financially I'm not like rich, or I'm pretty much poor and shameless. Is not rich and shameless yet, but more poor and shameless. I've done some cool shit. And people respect that I'm just going for my dreams, and I've always have. But the thing about it is, so his house, I go to his house when I went to visit. A lot of the last times I visited there, his house is just like hers, just complete modeling, remaking. And it's like, she looked at him. I thought you get yourself a house, so you didn't want to do this. It's like, I grew up with this. I'm good with it, right? So I mean, you gotta do the shit that life's too short to worry about like what is good in the long run. You might not be here in the long run. That's right. You might as well just have fun and do whatever it is you're gonna do, because there's no guarantees for tomorrow. So
if the pandemic taught us anything, it's that who knows what the fuck is gonna happen. I mean, that was one of the things I enjoy about television news, whether it be sports or opinion people, is how after something happens, everybody thought it was going to happen.
Right.
Like,
oh yeah.
Like I remember when Trump declared for president, and a Democrat friend of mine called me up, and I'm a Republican, and he said, I mean, I'm not a crazy Republican, but he called me up and he's like, hey, do you think, he's like, Trump declared, and I'm like, that clown, he can't possibly win the nomination. And then of course he did. And then he called me up and I'm like, well, there's no freaking way he's going to beat Hillary. Right. And everybody seemed to think that until he did it. And then everybody was like,
oh, I saw that.
I always thought he was going to win. And it doesn't mean there weren't people who accurately predicted it. There were, of course. But the common opinion was, he was not going to win, and yet afterwards everybody knew he was going to win. And
So,
and with sports you see the same thing. And, I mean, and I'm awful at that, but I feel like very, very few people predicted we were going to have the pandemic. And
oh no,
and
no one predicted the pandemic. I honestly, no one did. When
although
COVID-19 first came out, most of us thought it was just going to be whatever it was
oh yeah,
over some other
Yeah.
place, because it never happened. It hasn't happened here in so long that we just.
Yeah.
I remember the week before everything shut down, I was interviewing in the video game company. We were still treating it like a joke. Like, it was when things started to shut down that people started to panic.
I
That was
do have
that was the reality of that. Like, until that actually happened, no one took it seriously, or very few people took it seriously at the very
I do have a
least.
writing related COVID story that
Oh.
my wife read a review. She was picking out something to read on her Kindle, and she was reading reviews of different books, and she found one where it was a contemporary story, and somebody had given it a 1-star review because even though it was written in like 2019, it took place in 2020 or 2021, and the author or the reader was mad that it was like, this is supposed to be happening today, but it doesn't mention the pandemic at all. And that is so beautiful and captures so much of my belief about reviews. That
And human beings, let's be fair.
yeah, definitely.
I
That it. I mean, I got a great review, 1-star review, where the guy started it by saying, "I didn't read this book," and I thought that was the most beautiful review ever. That he would go take the
You
time to,
highlighted
without.
that, didn't you?
Yeah, oh yeah, and I very much have gotten a lot of enjoyment out of this thing. But that one that my wife found was even better. That read the book but was pissed that they weren't clairvoyant and included it when they wrote the book. I guess maybe they were trying to get him to go back and rewrite it to include it. I don't know. I'm not sure what the impetus for the review was, but man,
so
people are awesome.
so I have a theory about news media. All of it. Whatever they say, do the opposite. Because
That's a tough one.
no, it's no. That's here's my thing. I don't know when the media has ever been right. I actually racked my brain around this question. It's like, when has the media actually said something that's actually been accurate? And I can't remember when. I just literally can't. So I had this. So I came to this conclusion. I think around when the vaccine started to go wonky in Israel in August. I came to this conclusion. I was no longer going to go. I was just not going to believe a single word I heard from the media. I haven't been wrong. So
Now, aren't you technically a member of the media now?
yes and no.
So
This-
should we
but
just
I'm not-
reverse
but I'm not
that
a jour-
advice? You
How
just
is the
gave us-
no?
The thing is, I'm not a journalist. Like, that's the thing. It's I'm not a journalist. I'm not someone
Whoa,
that,
whoa.
like,
But you said media, not journalism. I mean, the media is a lot of not journalists who are opinion people.
yeah,
You know
but
what I mean?
infotainment.
Yeah, but the thing is, I'm not going to be an accredited expert or someone that's like, my credibility is in my authenticity, not in my opinions being right or me being an expert. I'm not going to tell anybody how to live their lives or give them advice. I might
Wait
give
till you have
person-
children.
No, because
It still won't work, but you'll tell
No,
them.
no,
Right, but
because
you
it won't
can't help
work.
it, though.
Why?
Yeah.
Did I listen to the advice? No. So why would that? No, I already know. Like, that's
You can't help
doomed.
it. Sit up straight. Get your feet off the table.
Right,
We
that's
are
all-
eating
that-
dinner.
no,
Cover
that's
your
the thing.
mouth.
It's-
Don't cough on the food. I mean, you can't stop. It's
That's being a tyrant when they're young, but when they get older, they get to talk back to you, and they're like, "Oh, okay, you think you know what you're doing?"
only
Go
have
for it.
daughters. That way you can beat them up.
No,
Like Robin screwed up. He had all sons.
It's true.
Those guys could take him out. I'm pretty
used to
sure I
f-
could.
Would be
beat
like
up
in a
my kids.
swimming pool, like at a hotel at the end of a long trip, and I'd take all three of them on, and at a certain point, they got too strong, And that was kind of exciting because they realized, like, we can dunk Dad here, and I had to use guile at that point, and
well,
start
yeah.
be like,
You realize that the raw power thing isn't going to work anymore, so
right,
you gotta actually do
Well, and your
something a
kids are
little.
smart too. So I
yes,
mean, it's like a pack of
inconveniently
smart
so.
wolves,
Yes,
opposing you.
And when they outnumber you, you're kind of screwed. Like you're kind of screwed. There's nothing you can do.
Divide and conquer. That's what you got to do.
Yeah, they
Set
would
them off
have
to
to
the-
but that only works for a little bit, and then they realize what you're up to, and they actually become stronger. Then you can't break the bond, and then
Why didn't have any boys?
you're now the common enemy. Once they realize that, you're done, right? It's better to have a bit of a come to a truce. Basically, give them some freedom, and in return, make them promise not to fuck things up too badly. Then they'll keep themselves in check a little bit, and that's what you want, right? Because I've seen this with so what happens there is, and that's when they fight each other, because then the oldest now has to deal with everybody else trying to take his spot, right? You give them some peace, they leave you alone. You try to divide them all, you just become public enemy number one, and then they're eventually going to take your ass out.
Well, the great thing, the best thing about being divorced is you have a place to kick your children out to.
Yes.
So when my oldest and I were not seeing eye to eye, like I thought we should deal with each other honestly, and she felt she should lie constantly. I just kicked her out to go live with her mother. And I tell you, it was awesome. I mean, I didn't have to feel bad. She wasn't living on the street. She had a place to stay and food and clothes, but I didn't have all of the stress. It was great. I recommend everybody get divorced who has children, so that they can take advantage of that delightful opportunity. That's the kind of great advice you'll get in my book, You're as Stupid as You Are Fat, How to Talk to Women. I think that's very representative of the quality of advice that's in that book.
It's amazing quality.
Right. I'm lucky nobody takes or nobody ever follows advice that I give.
It's all in the presentation, Ron. It's all in the presentation. But we can hear the dry sarcasm. We just hear it.
I'm wearing a sports coat.
You are.
So
that's
expert,
clearly voice of authority.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Boy.
Totally.
Hey, I mean, as a consultant, when I traveled around, oftentimes I would go into a company and I would be analyzing things, and I would have a list of recommendations, and I'd go back to the department I was dealing with, and they'd say, we have made all of these or most of these recommendations. And I said, true, but you work for this company, so you're an idiot. I'm like a guy from another state with a briefcase and a sports coat. They will listen to me. I mean, I don't know what it is about human psychology that makes it true, but people who own a business or who manage a business think the people who work for them aren't as smart as they are, or I mean, often. And I don't mean top of brain, but subconsciously. And then an expert comes in and they're like, oh, this guy, he knows his stuff.
You really want me to bring up something I can't talk about on the air, because I have stories. I have some stories right now I could bring up, but I'm not going to.
And the lawsuit, full speed ahead.
Yes, right. I can't yet. I'm still.
They're probably not going to sue you. You don't have anything worth taking. You just told us that you don't have any money.
It's not even about that. It's professional ethics. I'm still right. I can't. Yeah.
That's just a story we tell children.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I have a code. Kind of do.
Fair enough.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
For you. No wonder you're single.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just kidding. That's awful.
I can't wait. Speaking of that, I can't wait to actually be able to go out and do normal things regularly again. I might actually go on some dates again, because the pandemic was weird, and Canada's still kind of weird about it. It's like, hi, I'm gonna meet someone.
So I was really scared about it, or conscious of it, and masks and and hand sanitizer everywhere. I'm washing my hands a million times a day and not leaving the house a lot. And I got COVID anyway. Um, and I had the initial 2 shots, but the booster was out, but I hadn't got it yet. I was scheduled to get it in 5 days, but now I've got the booster. And they say that if you've had all the shots and you've had COVID, you're the least likely to be impacted, in the future
Would
to
you
contract it.
recommend getting COVID just for that
No,
extra?
God, no, because we don't know what the consequences down the road. I did not want it at all, but
I plead the
it is
fifth.
true that now that I've had the booster and the initial 2 shots and COVID, I'm the least likely to get it. And if I do get it, the odds are it would not be drastic, which it wasn't drastic even having the first 2 shots. So, thank you, science. I'm a huge fan. But it does make me feel pretty confident. I still wear a mask when I go out, but I feel pretty comfortable going out and about now. I don't feel like I have to be a hermit. We went
I
to
never
dinner at
was.
Robin's house. So, I mean, that, but before I wasn't doing that. I mean, that we did have to postpone because the Monday we were going to do it, I got COVID the Friday before that,
Yeah.
So we were like,
Fair
just,
enough.
we're going to have to cancel because we have COVID.
Because we can't
But
taste food. Yeah.
for food did taste a little weird. I didn't have my sense of taste go away completely, but it tasted weird, like muted. And for somebody as obsessed with food and eating as I am, I was terrified because I'm eating and um normally you make something from scratch, you have some really vibrant flavor. I mean, it's so powerful. And then so I make it and I take it out and I'm like, whoa, that's going to suck if that's what it is for the rest of my life. I mean, I would still be grateful to have any sense of taste. But man, like the last thing I made was, the last thing I made was chicken broth or stock. But before that, I'd made a garlic ranch dressing that I make and a ham and green pepper quiche. And I ate that dinner, and I'm like, God, I love this dressing. I mean, I love it so much, and this quiche is so amazing. And that's the reaction I have to most of the things Laura cooks or we cook together. I cook. We got some great ingredients. We make stuff from scratch. I'll be at the table like, oh my God, and to not have that would be a bummer. It I often think, man, we eat like kings. This food is so fresh and delicious. And it would feel more like I was eating fast food, with that
Right.
muted thing where it's like, hey, this is sustenance technically, but it's not, it's not amazing.
And you even eat better than most kings through history because you
Oh,
have food
definitely.
from anywhere in the world, fresh. It won't kill you. No one's poisoning
True.
you, as far as you know, let alone
Yeah.
food poisoning.
My kids maybe for the cars.
Yeah.
No, not yet. Eventually, though.
Well,
You're right. We Laura loves making food from all different cuisines. So I mean, we'll make Peruvian stuff, and we just made a Lebanese dish, and then so we're really trying lots of new things. And nowadays, I mean, I remember when I was a kid, what you could get in the grocery store was so limited, and now the international foods where you get ingredients or even certain sauces. I mean, we like to make a lot of sauces, but when we're trying stuff, we don't even know what it should be like. We go buy those things, and it's incredible what we can get nowadays.
Well, even
I'm
our town isn't very big, but we have good Asian markets and European
Hispanic.
markets, and we
Hmm.
have African markets, really good Hispanic markets where you can
It's
get the
insane.
raw ingredients that are,
Yeah.
shipped in.
I was shopping at Chinese markets long before they were cool. Like they're just cheap. They're generally just cheaper ways of even getting food than a regular grocery store in a lot of ways. So not just because of the things you have access to. Like one big easy example for me is coconut water.
Right.
Chinese market, less than $1. At a grocery store, $3.
And it's
Same shit.
fancy gourmet health food. Yeah, at a Chinese store.
Yeah, it's the same exact
water
shit, right?
with some coconut in it.
But by the by, for the record, for getting your taste buds back from COVID, copper chloride restores taste buds.
Oh, well, I was lucky. It was really a very temporary thing.
Yep.
When I ate dinner a couple nights ago, I was like, that is the stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I was so happy.
I just bring it up just because I speak from experience. It restores it like that if you ever had that issue. So,
well,
yeah.
I pray I do not, because I would be quite depressed. I mean, I'm so into food. When I meet people and they're like, I'm allergic to this whatever food.
Oh God, yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, I am so sorry for you.
You
much
have, like,
more
a
than like they've
physical
lost a
grief
pet.
reaction.
Yeah,
What?
that's
You
where I
can't
feel
eat
grief. You can't
ranch
eat
dressing? Who's allergic
bread?
to ranch dressing? How is that even a thing?
You can't eat bread. I'm so sorry for your loss. And I mean it. But Laura is allergic to walnuts, which is a shame because I enjoy having my mouth cut to shreds by what I'm eating, and so I miss walnuts. But there's an
Have you
easy
considered
substitute. We do pecan.
taking them out of the shell?
Oh, what, have you never eaten a walnut? Yes, taking them out of the shell. They're just it's a abrasive. I don't know.
They're a hardy nut. They really
Yeah,
are.
and I like it. I grew up. We always had walnuts in the winter, in the holiday season, and don't do that anymore. We just substitute pecans for everything. Because if it's not a deadly allergy, why would I? She's like, you can have walnuts. What for? What? I don't want to cause you any discomfort when I can just eat something else.
Yeah.
But we're lucky that's our only restriction. That and the actual physical limit of our stomachs. We can only eat so much. That's our main restriction because we are both
That's a good restriction, though.
obsessed with food.
Yeah.
Obviously, I keep talking about it. I'm
I know.
apparently
You're
hungry.
making me hungry.
Well, out behind your fry shack, you could put a vomitorium, and then you would not have that issue. And if you set it up right, it goes right into the garden, into the compost.
That sounds awful. Well, that is a reason I'm excited to get goats and chickens, is for manure for. We already, for the garden, we have a couple of compost bins that rotate, the big barrel type, and we certainly do a lot of work on the soil to make it better. And my dad's lived here for 40 some years, and it was wheat field before, so it was obviously good for agriculture. And then he has worked it so hard. It's just some great soil. You guys should be jealous.
I see. I've never been in one place long enough to really enjoy a garden. I know a lot about how to actually do. Like one of the trick I usually use to strengthen soil, especially on like not so much in the field, but when you actually are in a pot, I'll put what the heck is it? Name just escapes me. It basically it's bacteria. Something really, really simple. What the heck is it?
I don't know.
It escapes my brain, but there are ways to strengthen the soil and make the stuff more absorbable for your food, so you can grow big ass stuff. And this will come to me when this is over. It's actually something really simple, and it's just like, where is it?
Well,
Why can't I remember that? Can't remember this. But yeah, there's all kinds of little tricks to make your soil stronger. One of the simplest tricks, one of the most old school tricks, is not to utilize the whole garden. Like you just off sections every year. Like take a section of it, you
let
don't
it be
grow
fallow
anything
for a season.
Yeah, and then you just do nothing but put compost and feed the damn thing. It blackens the soil tremendously for the next year. And as long as you're doing that for every section, you have a really healthy soil. Eventually gets to the point it's black. And when you eat stuff from that soil, right, it's denser, stronger. You become stronger, right? Like that's the best way to do it. But I'm never usually in a place long enough to really, really put the dedication into it. It takes about 3 years to get your soil just right.
I just expand the garden and have new areas. But this year I did promise not to do that. So I'm working this year on growing up, vertical growing. And so instead of a squash plant taking up a ton of ground cover, it goes up, and then also companion gardening. So things are planted in amongst each other, like green beans go up the corn stalk kind of thing. So there's a bunch of stuff like that. So your what would have just been corn is now going to be corn and green beans. So that frees up a space that would have been green beans can now be something else. Because I still plan on growing more this year. I will not be defeated by my father, and my wife's no expanding the garden fenced area because we have deer and rabbits and stuff. So you have to fence it. And last year we expanded it. I mean, a lot. And so this year we can't, but I still want to overwhelm us with food.
That's okay. Overwhelming with food's good, but like I said, it's
Well,
like it's there's lots of little tricks that can, and this will come to me afterwards. I want to say it's like sour cream. It's a bacteria base. You just put it in between the layers of the soil and make it so anything that grows, you can actually it'll absorb it more.
Kind of like a
Actually,
tiramisu, a layer of compost, a layer of yogurt, a layer of fresh
yeah,
leaves.
yeah, yogurt. Yeah, it's just something as simple as yogurt. You can just use that, and it's a simple way as you just need a bacteria base because that's what the plants feed off of anyway, and you can just
Well, I want to get to Robin's plan because compost smells so incredibly awful. The idea of tiramisu with compost was very vivid for me because
Yeah.
I mean, every day, you know, we're making stuff, and so you're taking stuff out to the compost bins and opening it up is a treat.
Yes.
Even in the winter when it's frozen, it's still working. And
Oh yeah.
ooh.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's for the greater cause, right?
Oh,
It's for the-
definitely.
yeah.
I love.
Yeah.
I mean, I love it in the garden.
I've never gardened myself because my folks have a giant garden, and so they just bring us bags of food. But it
Nice.
makes it hard to be motivated to go out and do that myself. But I've always loved keeping compost because, especially when the kids were little, nothing more fun than turning the compost over and finding, all the little warrens of mice. So I'd turn it over. The kids would come stand around it with buckets, and then the cats would come stand around waiting for the ones that got away. And then so we'd catch mice, and I'd say, "Oh, go show your mom."
Uh,
That was the
Oh,
best.
my
but
Lord.
I would get a
you know
beetle.
what?
Like, "Blah."
Yeah,
That's awesome.
cats are great.
So what'd you do with the compost? Give it to your folks?
We'd just turn it over, and then I got a whole mess in the backyard now that now and then I'd spread it out on the lawn, or
Oh, okay.
that whole
That makes
area
sense.
of the
Yeah,
lawn would just slowly get taller. See,
that makes
so
sense.
Yeah, like I said, if I ever get to a place where I stick around for a few years and actually have some room, I'll be growing my own stuff too. I know how to do it. I think I can do some really good stuff. Start with something simple like potatoes and work my way up.
Well, in the old-timey days before Google Maps, people would fly over the area where my parents live and take pictures. And then they would come to your front door and say, "Hey, you want a picture of your place from the sky like magic?"
right.
And so my parents, my dad bought this in the December before Mount St. Helens, so like December of '79, right? Because Mount St. Helens was 80 or 81. Anyway, right around that time. So it's been 40
80, I
years,
think. Yeah.
and uh, those initial pictures of the property it's amazing the change my dad has done, and my mom, but mainly my dad. He loves working outside. He has transformed this place, and it's incredible what I mean within 4 decades. So trees that he planted at 2 feet tall are now gigantic, like dangerously too big. Like we should cut those down because they're gonna fall on the house big. I mean that's because I have not lived anywhere that long. And so it's really neat to see the and my dad is very much interested in us
So
staying here and keeping the family, like he's like, I put all this work in. I want it to stay
yeah,
in the family. So it's kind
so
of cool because that's not
my dad,
normal anymore.
my dad always moved around, so he never got to keep gardens long, but he always would grow these gardens. So when he was living in his last place in Windsor, he had this garden in the yard, and it was invaded by the fattest raccoon I've ever seen in my
Dang.
life. That raccoon lived around that garden. He didn't eat everything, but he had his little corner because my dad grew so much stuff. This big raccoon was the happiest raccoon in the world. Just like, oh, right. Just what can you do, right? Like it was just one of those situations where it just like it's there. But he would grow stuff to such a degree that he would attract everything and everyone. He'd come up with cool repellents and stuff like that. But but he would like you could literally follow my dad's trail by the gardens he grew in the time he was there. They were amazing for
Nice.
what they were. And again, I'm not to his level of green thumb, but I can grow plants relatively well. I enjoy it. It's actually soothing. Much like cooking.
Indeed.
It's actually like
Oh, yeah.
growing plants and cooking are quite soothing actually for the soul.
Well, I will kill anything that goes after my garden. Neighbors, anything. Okay, not neighbors, but we have voles,
so here.
we have rabbits. My dad and my wife are like, we need to trap the rabbits and take them, away so there's somebody else's problem.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fine, fine, but when, yeah, I do not work in the garden for them to eat it.
No, I
And
get you. But
and
there's
I know
always
we're not on the brink of starvation or anything. We have so much food and grocery stores and all that, but I feel like it is a battle for survival.
well,
And
it's like anything else. There's give and take. Like I used to live, like I said, in Arizona, and one of the people I worked for, we had a skunk problem in the area. So we had skunks. There's nothing you can do. You have to drown them. This is gonna sound like animal cruelty, but that's the only way you deal with them. And so there was a skunk trap. They would set a skunk trap. Skunk would be trapped, take them in the cage. They dispose of them. That's what they did. It sounds really, really cruel, but it is what
I'm
it
not
is.
worried about the cruelty part. My question is about the spraying part. So you trap them in
They wear out. But basically, what you basically do is you let them. Again, they're spraying when they're in the cage to begin with.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if that.
When they get caught in the cage,
Okay.
They
flip out.
Again, they're doing everything they can to try to escape. So you'll see they'll spray, they'll do their stuff, right?
Whew.
So inevitably, right? Also because of the cage, they don't have as much room to maneuver. So you grab the cage, right? You grab the cage, you put it over like a cloth or something like that. Like basically you wrap the cage over a cloth, you lift the damn thing, you put it in the back of a truck where you're not getting sprayed. You just again, it's gonna do its
Don't
thing.
put it in an enclosed vehicle.
Yeah,
Right.
no, that is a
That sounds
terrible
awful.
idea.
Ugh.
Right? That's a terrible
Wow.
idea. Yeah, it's one of those situations, and again, I'm sure people listen to like, what the hell? It's like it is what it is. And this is what happens, guys. Right? Pragmatically speaking, this is what goes on. And you got a problem. Like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna let the skunk go somewhere? I mean,
Right.
do you wanna open that cage? Because
You
that
Maybe
is fun, let me tell
you
you.
could release it
somebody's
in the
house
wild.
that you don't like.
Yeah.
You
Kick in
the boss.
a basement window in their backyard and just
So, well,
Frontier style.
Yeah.
So here's the like I still remember this too. The most terrifying thing in the world is when you and the skunk are both startled at each other's appearance. It's like you didn't know neither knew the other was there, and then suddenly you're both very aware that the other's there. So you got like a second to shut that door, like literally a second. It's like, oh shit, because it's not gonna end well.
That sounds terrifying.
I
Luckily,
get
I haven't been in
skunks
that situation.
at my house. I've pulled into the yard and seen them on my front porch.
Oh my.
My wife says it's because I feed the squirrels. I
Yes.
blame her bird seed, which technically I fill up the bird feeders, but they're her bird feeders. So
That is a perfect illustration of marriage and the benefits of marriage.
Yes.
You each get to blame the other one. It doesn't matter if it's right or wrong.
Yeah.
It's just you have an opportunity to do it.
to blame,
And
yes.
It's true.
Laura and I work hard at that.
On two occasions, my golden retrievers have been sprayed by a skunk. Both times, my son's fiance was the only one home to deal with it. So when my wife brings up that the skunks are a problem, I'm like, they're going to be India's problem. It's her name. I I've never had to deal with it myself. I assume she'll just be here and
hating you both.
this is your role in the family. Welcome
yes.
to the family. That's nice.
You deal with the things that we don't want to because we're absolutely terrified of it. No.
Exactly.
I honestly don't know where we go from here. This is just that's a wild rabbit hole we went down.
I don't know.
Yeah. I think you know what we could do. Actually, there's one last thing I want to know. So, and that's for Mr. R.J. Burchette, because we haven't talked too much about you, right? Very, very much. You have been the sidekick. You've been the winger to Ron's Hulka. That's a very old reference for those people that don't know. So, but we should get you to the forefront as well. So, is this like this is your first collaboration together? I'm assuming, or your second collaboration, or something to that effect?
Our first collaboration, but we started it way long time ago.
Well, we did stuff before that in school, writing.
Juvenalia.
Yes.
Yes, we did stuff when we were.
This was our first non-garbage, knock on wood, collaboration. Although I didn't think that stuff. It was just kids.
So you guys
have
always
fun.
Yeah. So
if you're having fun, it's never a waste of time. Like something I've realized in this life. Like if you guys are enjoying your process, it really doesn't matter what anybody else thinks about it.
Yeah. At the end of the day, if you enjoy what you're doing, then you've already won. We also want other people to read it, so
and give us money.
And give us money.
That's right.
Money will be nice.
Pretty please.
That's right, Ron. That's the closest you'll ever hear Ron beg on any show. Please get.
That's not money. True. I will beg. If there's money on the line, I'll beg. Yeah. I'm a whore.
It's okay. True. As long, hey, I'm a whore too. As long as
I would like to be a well-paid whore.
Right now,
begging doesn't tend to pay well, though. That's what I've noticed. Like begging just doesn't work. You have to be more. You have to be. You have to show that you have a little bit of dignity, which as a whore is difficult to show. I admit. I acknowledge that.
We'll take your word for that. But
yes. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not about dignity.
Okay, gotcha. So, all right. So RJ, have you done your own stuff as well? Or is this...
I have. In fact, I have something to shill here in a sec. It's years ago. I wrote a book. There's a Robert Kiyosaki book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which is a wonderful and inspiring book. A complete fraud. The man wrote this book telling you how to get rich, and the way he got rich was by writing a book. All the things he claims he did to get rich, he just made those stories up. But so I wrote. I'm still trying to learn left right here.
Yeah. I see that. So, Smart Dad, Dumb Dad.
Smart Dad, Dumb Dad. And a beautiful picture of myself there on the back.
Very nice.
With that halo. I really love the used car salesman look there. And so I finished that book.
I like the tie.
The tie is impressive, and there is something that openly says "Don't trust me" on the back of that. It is openly, just right out there, right? Don't buy my shit, right? Yeah. Which might be countered. It fits the book. I will say that it fits. It's a parody, so it fits the book.
So I was finished with the book. I went through the steps to self-publish it, and I was proud of it. And I started getting into the process of publicizing it, and just hit a wall. I failed at it. And it was the sort of thing where I told myself, all right, I've spent all this time writing. I'm not just going to sit in the basement and keep producing content. I want to make sure people are seeing it. And I really failed at that, frankly. So I am grateful that I'm now working with Ron, who's been doing this for a while and self-publishing it, because I'm really good at following through and completing things. I'm not always good at knowing what to initiate, because I have like 400 things on my to-do list, and I'm like, do I change the cat litter, or do I win a Nobel Prize? I just can't choose some days. And so I'm hoping this process will.
Well, and you did printed copies of the book only, right?
Oh yes, right now this I have not yet got this up on Kindle. Let's see if I can find the center of the screen. This is available if you go to Amazon.com and look up Smart Dad, Dumb Dad. You will find that. you can purchase it. It's
I'm
well
hoping
worth
that,
your time.
if he gets the digital version up and references that in You Get What You Steal, and then Robin also has been kind enough to contribute a story to my Cathaldi anthology, where there's a couple short stories about, or that I've written, 3 in it, but the rest of the stories are by other authors that take place in the Cathaldi world, and uh, there's a lot of content there, and I'm, everybody gets a chance to put links to their own work and promote that. So I'm hoping lots and lots of eyes will be on not only Robin's stuff, but everybody's stuff, my stuff, all the other authors. And I'll be really curious to see how it works. I've got this fantasy world. People have been reading the books. What what happens when all these other eyes get drawn in? So like Maddie DeGraff, she contributed a story. She has her fans. She promotes it to them, and they come look. What will they be interested in? Because there's a horror one, there's some funny stuff, there's some serious stuff, some military stuff in it. Everybody's writing different things. There was no constraint on what it was, what type of stories, and like how will that impact sales for Smart Dad Dumb Dad. I mean, I
It,
think it will be very interesting to see. I don't know anybody who's done it like that.
I think it's like anything else. Just the more you put yourself out there, like the cool thing about indie publishing, and then this will be our final top before we wrap up. The cool thing about indie publishing is it's not always even about your initial sales on the first books. It's the fact that you have a constant barrage of content out there. It inevitably adds up. You find something that people really gravitate towards, and you're like, holy shit, this is cool. What else is he doing? Or she's
Right.
doing, right? And that's the cool thing about like authors make their money more often than not from the fact that they have a quantity of things people can invest in, right? That happen to be good.
Definitely.
You hope, right? But
Yeah,
that's it, right? That's the secret to it. And the more you get out there, the more you do it. Like I'm working on my 7th and 8th and 9th books this year. So and again, in my particular case, I create my own little unique corner of the universe. I did epic poetry for 5 of the 6 books. I have a novel. Next book is going to be an illustrated novella, which is what I'm doing, and then the one after that's a novel. Then I'm doing another book of poetry. So basically, I'm creating my brand. So so eventually, my bet is sooner or later I'm going to hit a home run, and people are going to look at all my other stuff and go, "Holy shit, this is good," because that's the nature of the business. I think today.
We're just aiming for like a triple. We can get a triple.
How about a ground rule double?
I would take it.
Yeah,
I would take it. I do have my fantasy trilogy coming out. An omnibus version. That'll be digital only, and I'm going to take my individual first 3 Cathaldi novels off of KU or out of KU and go wide with them and see how that works. So then with that thing being available, the omnibus plus the anthology, that's a couple of different things to see how that affects things. And then I really think we're gonna push You Get What You Steal pretty hard through the show, through appearing on people's shows like this. Thank you very much.
A Super Bowl ad we'll have next year.
Yeah, Super Bowl ad. That would be awesome. Maybe if you have enough, like on a credit card, to charge that, that would be great. But I do want to do advertising for it. I think it's definitely okay. Maybe I should put it this way: the Cathaldi novels are niche. I mean, they're not so broadly. I mean, I'm looking for a specific type of reader, and I think that You Get What You Steal has a lot more broad appeal and is worth advertising now. If somebody likes that and then goes back and looks at the Cathaldi stuff, that would be awesome. But I think on its own, we have a chance to, have success with just You Get What You Steal. Now, definitely, Smart Dad, Dumb Dad should be listed there so people can can choose to buy that if they enjoyed You Get What You Steal. But separate from that, I think it's worth pursuing to try and get it in front of as many eyes as possible.
I think everything's niche. My honest opinion, with the way the nature of publishing has gone, and the way all these things have gone, everything has a niche.
Well,
It's
agreed,
under
but if you say fantasy is a genre, there are things that appeal to a gigantic chunk of the fantasy audience. And then there
sure,
are things that are a little more targeted, and Cathaldi, I think, is that. It's just
but
not
even
every fantasy fan is open to it.
but let me illustrate the fantasy point though. Fantasy is a genre, yes,
Mhm.
but let's talk about fantasy. There is fantasy like Robert Jordan, Terry Goodkind, George R.R. Martin.
Sure.
That's one niche.
Elves and things.
That's elves. That's that. But then there's Alana Andrews. Then there's like who's urban fantasy, which is a different environment than this. Then you
No
have
doubt.
Terry Pratchett, who, by the way,
But
is
agreed. But I mean, there's and of course, like any rule, there are exceptions and outliers. But in general, if you are writing to market, to the fantasy market, you can do some things. I mean, it's the sales. If your goal is to maximize sales, you would do certain things. And I didn't care about that. I wanted to write the story I wanted to write. And because of that, it does not appeal to the same number of people as if I had made different choices. And I'm fine with that. But I mean, if I could get everybody in the world to read it, there would be, this percentage of people who responded to it versus if everybody in the world read, Game of Thrones, a much larger percentage of people would be interested in it,
The
and not,
record would suggest a large percentage of people would like it.
yeah, I
yes.
mean,
Game of Thrones.
and that is a writing philosophy for a lot of indie authors: write to market and maximize sales, and it can work. I mean, your quality still matters, but it can definitely work. And I have a friend doing that very successfully right now, and that's awesome. It's just not
Oh
what I
yeah.
want to do. I want to enjoy what I'm doing, and I don't want it to just be a different job that I don't love. I want to love
No,
what I'm
I
doing.
know, I get that, but I would say in the long game, this is just my theory about where publishing's going. Every story has been told. All of them have, whether we want to acknowledge it or not. But what makes all stories unique is the person telling it. And developing that voice of who you are, I think is more important than writing to a market because, again, it's something we said at the very beginning. It's all about establishing connections, right?
Yes.
What does a Ron Lahr story feel like, right? And it can be, but it doesn't matter what the genre is. Some genres you'll do better than others for sure, but it's more about the experience you create.
If I had to say in one word what a Ron Lahr written experience feels like, it would be clammy. No, I'm just kidding. Moist. No,
Yeah.
Moist. We'll go with moist. I like that. Ron
uh,
Lahr, the moist author, right?
I should get that URL right now.
Yeah. Hey, why not? Actually, you should get that URL and you should just point it to someone. You just point it to like Joe as a gag, right? Where does this direct to? Here. Oh, okay.
That would be nice.
Just
Poor Joe.
I am, like I said, I am that sadistic as a prankster. So, if you ever see something pointed your way, I'm not sorry. Just
Fair enough.
Fair enough. And I expect retribution at some point. I just do. All right, guys.
That's fair.
I think we have an interview here. What do you guys think?
I say we go 3 more hours.
3 more hours? 3?
Just kidding. My wife was already like, 2 hours?
In the middle of a Sunday?
Yeah, she left. That showed me.
It taught you something. or another. So what I think we should do is, so do you know when your game show is actually the day your game show launches?
The last Monday of March is the goal.
Okay.
So that would
That'd be the
be
28th?
the 28th. Yeah.
March
Okay.
28th.
Well, you're fast.
Yeah.
You must have remembered. Yeah, I don't have
So
that capability anymore.
so how about we do this? We'll go like this. We'll mention the games, plug your game show, plug the book you're doing together, right? And then how can people find both of you?
Okay. The
Is
game
that
show is Indie Mayhem. It's on the Go Indie Now network. So if you go to goindie.com, goindienow.com, or Facebook, anywhere, all the different YouTube, you'll be able to find information about that there. And then the book, You Get What You Steal, will be available on Amazon only at first, and then we'll see what happens in the future. But you can come to my website, www.kathaldi.com, KATHALDI.com, and that'll have links to everything as they are created. And, it has links to my, thank you. It has links to my social media, all that crap. And eventually it'll have a link to this, my media appearances. And yeah, I hope people will check everything out.
all right?
So far,
And
I have to get my website up. So far, all I have is the item on Amazon.com under books, a physical book that you can have for those people who still read physical books.
I actually do read
If you want to reach Robin, you are on Facebook.
I am on Facebook now. Yes,
Yeah.
I just dipping a toe in the Facebook water. The only thing I know of Facebook is the news media, that it's going to curve my spine and lose the war for the Allies. But I don't.
And we are going to do a joint email newsletter for humor, for basically all our stuff, but the focus being You Get What You Steal. I mean, I've started it. It's pretty small. I mean, I don't think it's even 500 subscribers yet, but it's out there, and now we can make it into something, hopefully.
That's great.
But I was just going to say, Robin's plan is to have a website, though.
It's a good plan.
He told me.
Yeah.
Mine is crappy, but it exists.
My imaginary one.
The only thing going for mine is that it exists. It is not awesome.
Hey, sometimes look at my crappy website. I mean, it's got all my publication stuff there. It doesn't look the prettiest, but it is what it's functional.
Well, and you know how it is. I mean, as an indie author, we have to do everything.
Oh, yeah.
Promoting all these things. I'm like, working on the website is so far down the list for me, and that's a shame. But I do have to sleep sometimes.
Yes.
It's true.
So, folks, what's on my list right here? That is my latest release. It's Alice 1, the sequel to Alice 0. It's Alice in Wonderland is Greek mythology. Alice is Pandora. Alice changes the Queen of Hearts over the edge of the world, and she ends up in the Greek underworld, where to escape, she must play Jason of the Argonauts, a game of croquet. Along this journey into the underworld, Alice and company encounter gods, monsters, and perhaps the most terrifying thing of all, themselves. It's available now. You can check it out right there. If you want to support this channel, twitch.tv/justjoshing podcasts. I'm doing a lot of cool interviews this week. I may have some pirate metal before the week's up. I'm going to find that out tomorrow. But tomorrow, also, Karina Cantus joins the show. It's going to be a fun little trip and neat. I want to thank these two for putting up with me for 2 hours. It was a wonderful conversation.
My pleasure.
Yes. My pleasure, too. Thank you.
Yeah.
My pleasure,
everybody watching,
a little more.
Yes. For the moist author, Ron Lahr, for RJ, for RJ Burchett. Right. I'm sorry. That's going to be in my head now for a couple of days. I'm sorry, buddy. But for Ron, for RJ, thank you guys very much for coming on my show. To everybody watching, everybody listening, keep watching, keep listening, stay inspired, keep shining in the dark, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.